All right, for those of you, welcome. If you're new here, because I know a lot of people are new today, you missed last week. What we normally do is not normal. We are going through the Gospel of Luke. We are in a series called Forever Changed, and the whole idea behind it is that as Jesus went through his days and the people that he came in contact with, when they have a relationship with him, it completely forever changed them forever, which is exactly what should happen to you and I. So that's where we're going. We're going to be inserting videos from Israel. I will be reading verses in Israel that will go towards the place, so we want you to see what Israel looks like, that these are real places, real archaeology, real everything. And then that ties it to the Bible, and then when you read the Bible, it just comes alive, and you're like, I know what that looks like now. So that's our goal. Now, for those of you that you're new, if you come here, normally I tell you something funny that happened during my week because I have funny children and funny husband and funny everything, I think. So I have to tell you, first of all, we have three birthdays this week. We did. One was Saturday. It was my son-in-law. I forgot. Okay, never called him. Monday was my daughter-in-law. I never called her. Yeah, so I said, you should have had this on your list of mother-in-laws, like what I want in a mother-in-law, help her to remember my birthday. So I did not win any award. My other son, his birthday's Thursday, and I saw him yesterday, and I said, oh my gosh, you have a birthday on Wednesday. Nope, I really don't. So I'm kind of pathetic with that. It doesn't work really good. Now, when we went to Israel, we had to stop we had to go to New York first. So I have to tell you this, what happens, because my poor husband, I feel so sorry for him. I don't get embarrassed, but poor Rob, and I think I'm the one who embarrasses him the most. So I just pop off and say things, and he gets embarrassed, but this time it wasn't me. So we go there, we have tickets, and they're, Phoenix to New York to Tel Aviv. So that's the plan. We decided to stay 3 extra days because Rob said there's no way we're getting this videotaping done in the short amount. So we stayed 3 extra days. Well, when we got to the airport, it's that 6 a.m. flight. So we get there. We get Shy and Dusty, they got their tickets, everything's good to go, and they're like, oh, you need to go to the counter for Rob and I. No tickets. Our tickets have disappeared. They're gone. And so they're like, well, if you really want to get on the flight, you have to pay for tickets right now to get on. So we're like, okay, this is just not a good way to start a trip. So paid the money, got there, went through the line, had my boarding pass. Between the security line and when you checked into you got onto the plane, I lost my boarding pass. I had no idea what I did with it. And so I'm searching through all our bags, and of course when we travel, it's always a major production. It's like pillows and blankets and computers and everything else. So can't find it anywhere. So Rob goes to the counter and he gets me another one, so we get on the plane. And so everything's fine, we get in our seat, and of course we just have so much stuff that it's always dramatic. So then we get in there and Rob sits down and he goes, oh, I can't find my phone. Of course, everyone hears it, where's my phone? Where's my phone? And he's like, I don't know where my phone went to. And so someone goes, well, why don't you call it? Okay. So we called it, and of course, ring, ring, way up in the bin, way up here. So he's just dying of embarrassment the whole time. Okay, poor little guy. So we finally get the phone, we sit down, and he looks at me and he goes, oh man, I forgot my Starbucks out front, when I got your boarding pass. And I'm like, well, do you want me to go get it? He's like, oh, good heavens, no, I'm fine, okay. So we sit down, they shut the door, okay, to take the plane off, and all of a sudden the intercom comes on. Hello, somebody left their Starbucks. It says, Rob, are you on our plane? Okay, Rob is just going, oh my gosh, I don't even want to no, Rob's not on the plane. So it was so funny. We went to New York, and Shai and I usually go to New York a lot, so we don't, but he's doesn't really know. So he gets on the elevator, and this is what he's wearing. Okay. And he gets on the elevator, this is what he said. I just don't want to go out there and look like a tourist. Okay. And Cheyenne and I burst out laughing. We're like, honey, we're pretty sure that hat gave you away the minute you got on this elevator. So poor Rob. Isn't that so sad? Okay, map. You guys have a map. This map, I told you this last week. Love this map. It's your map. Hold on to it. Make sure you bring it back. There's one at your table if you don't have one. I will have more next week. My copy machine went out. Anyway, I want you to tell you where we're at. First of all, because I put the hat on, is it messing up my hair? Okay, only because if I had a piece of hair like this, you wouldn't concentrate the entire day. You'd be like, Lisa's hair's bugging me. There's a strand of hair. So, okay, as long as we're good to go. I want you to see where we're at today. If you look, down below is the Dead Sea. The body of water at the top is the Sea of Galilee. That's where Jesus spent most of his time. This first video is in Capernaum. You'll see it on the very north top of the Sea of Galilee. And that is where we are going to start our lesson today. So make sure you listen to the words of what's on here, because this is actually the lesson that we're going to talk about today. So. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Women's Bible Study. If you would like to know more about our ministry, you can go online to womensbiblestudy.com, and there you can get handouts, you can watch past lessons, and you can watch previous lessons from our Luke series. We are here in Israel filming the different places that we are studying in the Gospel of Luke, so that you can see that the Bible is true, and the places that we're studying are actual places that you can go to and visit. So we are super excited to be here. We are in the middle of a series right now called Forever Changed, because as Jesus walked through this land and the people's lives that he touched, they were forever changed. And that's what happens to us as followers of Christ. Last week we showed you the synagogue, and today we are standing here in front of Peter's house. Peter, Andrew, James, and John were all fishermen living here in this village. Matthew, also the tax collector, was from here also. This was Peter's house, his mother-in-law's house. This is where Jesus would have healed Peter's mother-in-law, and so we are here today. This site is verified by archaeological excavations, and a church has been built over this site. So you can just imagine Jesus walking around this area. We're very, very close to the Sea of Galilee, and he walked in here. He walked all through this town, and it's a spectacular place to come and visit. So today we are going to read the verses that we're going to attach to our lessons. We are going to be in Luke 9. We'll just start from there. Luke 9:1. And he called the 12 together, gave them power and authority over all the demons and to heal diseases. He sent them out to proclaim the kingdom of God and to perform healing. And he said to them, "Take nothing for your journey, neither a staff, nor a bag, nor bread, nor money. Do not even have 2 tunics apiece. Whatever house you enter, stay there until you leave that city. And as for those who do not receive you as you go out from that city, shake the dust off of your feet as a testimony against them." Departing, they began going through the villages, preaching the gospel and healing everywhere. Okay, so that is the verses that we're going to talk about mostly this morning. We'll come back with a couple videos towards the end, but here's the point that I want to make today. And it's this whole idea that when we look and see places like that, where Peter lived and Jesus walked, what struck me as I was studying this was Peter was a real person and followed a real Jesus. And if you and I are followers of Jesus today, I'm going to assume it's because of Peter and the people that followed Jesus at that particular time. Their faith impacted other people, which impacted other people, and that's why you and I are believers today, because of what they did in their life. Now, what is amazing about that verse is that they became a Christian, and they became a follower of Christ, and somehow Jesus never said to them, "You know what, guys, I'm so glad you're following me. This is so awesome, but you know what, here's what I want you to do. Go to synagogue, throw a little money in the offering plate, and maybe join a small group." Okay? Hey guys, I'm so glad you're following me, but I just want you to go out and be happy, do whatever you want to do. Go for the gusto in life, like it's all about being happy. Like Jesus never said that to his followers. But the one thing he did say was, go. I'm sending you out to tell other people about me. And that, I hate to tell you, is our job too. And the problem is that most of us, a lot of us, don't do it. And we all have really good, valid reasons that we think that why we don't. But some of the reasons would look like this. I don't think it's my job. Like, it's my pastor's job. It's not my job to go share my faith. It's his job to do it. That's why we pay the big bucks in the offering plate. Some of you are like, I'm too shy. Well, I don't want to open my mouth. What if I open my mouth and somebody laughs at me? Like, I can't do that. And for many people, it's like, well, my faith is personal. It's a very personal thing. I don't want to rock the boat. You don't talk about religion and politics. And so you just don't say anything because of that. And some of you fall into the category of, I don't think I know enough. I don't know the Bible well enough, so I'm afraid if I actually talk about my faith that someone's going to say, well, really? Well, how did the dinosaurs get on the ark? And how did T-Rex make it on there, okay? What about Jonah? Like, do you really honestly think Jonah and the whale and that whole thing, and how did that possibly happen? So in some people's mind, it's like, I just don't think I know enough, so I'd rather just not talk at all. And so for whatever reason, my all-time favorite was someone who said, I just don't really care that much about people. Like I like dogs, okay? They actually said, I have more compassion on animals than I do whether people go to heaven or hell, okay? And you may be one of those that think that too. So I get all the reasons why. But when we studied this week, I realized that Jesus really honestly told people, if you are going to be my followers, I need you to understand that I am sending you out into a world because people need to hear about salvation and how to go to heaven. So the problem is that we go inward, we sit at church, we go to Bible study, we read our Bibles. The minute we leave our house, our faith stays inside of us. And I want that to change. Now, the question is, did Jesus really want us to go out and share him with others? And the answer is yes. And I think that I came up with why we don't. And the reason why is something that happened to me right after we got back from Israel. When we got back, of course, we got back on Sunday. Rob had to leave on Wednesday to go out of town. So Wednesday night, I was home by myself. The jet lag's been killing us. We still cannot get our sleep schedule right. So we're tired all the time. We can't sleep. We wake up at 1 in the morning. So Wednesday night, I prayed. I said, God, I need a good night's sleep. And I need you to give me a good night's sleep tonight. So I slept until 1, okay? So in the morning, it was so funny. One night, I was like, God, I really need to sleep. I'm so excited to go to bed tonight because I'm going to sleep 20 hours. You just feel that way. I went to bed at 7 p.m., and I woke up at 8. And I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, look at this. I slept. And I looked at the clock, and I'm like, 1 hour, okay? And then you can't go back to sleep. So that's my life for the last week. But anyway, so Rob goes out of town. I wake up at 1 o'clock, and I said, all right, since I prayed about this, and I'm assuming that God wants me awake for some reason. I don't know what it is. So I just had gotten this book, and I want to recommend it to you guys. It's a book. It's called God Is, and it's by Renee Schlapfer. So I'm going to call him Pastor Renee because I could not possibly know how to say his last name. I put it in your handout. It's kind of like a 50-day exploration of God's attributes. So anyway, so I thought, well, I got this in, so I'm going to sit here. I'm going to try to learn something about God while I'm awake because I don't want to waste my time. So he comes upon telling us a story in there about a girl by the name of Sarah. And he says Sarah in her 20s has been in and out of the hospital probably, all of her life. She is 4 feet tall. He said she's probably about as big around as his leg. So she's tiny, very tiny. She's missing like half of her arm. She only has like one thumb, or doesn't have a thumb, or has only a thumb. And so she has never, God just created her completely different than he, has created most people. And so they were at a Christian conference. And a few weeks later, Pastor Renee got a letter from a man. And this is what he said. He said, hi, my name is Ron. He said, I met Sarah only for a moment, but her impact was like a thunderclap. There was a short break before dinner. We sat down on the deck to rest, and Sarah walked by and said, can I ask you guys a question? And they said, sure. And she said, what do you think the most beautiful part of God is? And I will tell you, call it jet lag, call it one of those God moments in your life. I sat there and here came the tears. Because it dawned on me, how does this girl who has gone through so much in her life have such a love for God. Like, it doesn't matter that she wasn't born like everyone else. Like, for me, I'd probably be whining. People here, like, we all take our circumstances and we don't love God because of them. We're mad at God. God, why did you make me like that? God, why did you let my childhood be like that? Why was my dad an alcoholic? Why was I adopted? Why did I have sickness? Why? And here's little Sarah, and she just brings this question to the forefront of, guys, why is God so beautiful to you? And I was so shocked. He said, he kept writing, and he said, he went ahead and answered the question. And I'm trying to find what he said. Ron said, so anyway, he said, we were stunned, this is what he wrote to the pastor, that this tiny woman with a strange delivery but beautiful smile could ask questions that would make us grown men cry. And it dawned on me after reading this what the difference is and why she shares her faith and why it's hard for us to do that sometimes. And here's what I think it is. And I think it's because we have lost our awe of God. I'm not in awe of him anymore. Like, I look at moms with brand new babies and they're like, oh my gosh, look how cute. They take 90,000 pictures and think you want to actually see them, okay? But it's like, and then when you get your engagement ring and you're like, you show everyone, and my fiance is so awesome, and can't wait, and you have pictures and pictures, and you just show them because you're so in awe of the guy you're going to marry or the kid or whatever. There's something about that, okay? And somehow I think that we have lost our awe of God. And so what happens is nothing exudes out of us because we're not in awe of him. We've taken for granted every single thing that he has done for us. I thought about that. I thought, okay, I was born with a one-way ticket to hell in my hand. I just was, and so were you. And somewhere along the line in my life, God decided to, have my parents take us to church and have my mom and dad send me to vacation Bible school, and someone shared Jesus with me, and I wanted him in my life, and I don't know how that happened, but now reading the Bible, I see it was God, and he was drawing me to himself, and he opened my spiritually blind eyes, okay? That should be enough to just put me in awe for the rest of my life. God saved me. And if you are a follower of his, he saved you. It wasn't you. Nothing in us wants God. We're separated from him. And then God shows up in Jesus and dies for my sins and says, you know what? I want you to be in my family. And if you travel around the world, you will see there's not many followers of Christ. There aren't. It's very stressful to me. There's so much religion, false religion, bad religion, and yet, out of all that, Jesus says the road is very narrow and very few will find it. And if you are one of those very few, we should be on our knees every morning saying, thank you, God, for saving me. We should be so in awe of that. And then if that's not enough, maybe all we have to do is like go outside at night and look up at the stars and see the stars and the moon and the beautifulness of the galaxies that are out there. And then if that doesn't give us awe, then maybe we should go to a zoo and we should see like a zebra and a giraffe and a lion and say, look at his creation. I mean, I think we have to do whatever we have to do in order to get our awe of God, because I think that's the difference. I think that's why Sarah shares her faith, because she somehow is overflowing with this love of God. And I'll tell you, I sat there that morning crying and said, God, I want what Sarah has, because I think that I've lost it. And I think that's what separates us. I think that's what happens that's why Peter and Paul and John, I think they were mesmerized by Jesus, who could calm a storm and raise a child from the dead and heal a blind man. Like, I just think they had such awe, and they were like, I have to tell people about him. And see, that's what I think we're missing, and that's what I want for us today, is to come back and say, God, give me that awe so that everything that flows out of me is love for you first and foremost, and then I got to tell everyone about him. That's just what I'm desperate to do. Frank Chrysler was a world-famous violinist, and he did a lot of concerts and did compositions and all of these things. He made a lot of money, but he gave most of his money away. He was born in 1875, died in 1962. The thing with Fritz is that he traveling, he found this one violin that he was so spectacular that he had to have it. And so when he went to get the price, he of course didn't have the money. So he went back home, he worked, he raised the money. When he had enough money, he went back to buy it. And the guy said, "I'm so sorry, I sold it to a collector." So he gave him the address, he went to the collector's house, and he said, please, I really am desperate to have that violin. The collector said, "Nope, it's my prized possession, I will not give it up." And he was so sad. As he was walking out the door, he had this idea. He turned around to the collector and he said, "Could I play the instrument one more time before it's consigned to silence?" And he said, "Sure, go ahead, go for it." And he said, as the collector sat there and listened to the music that this man was playing on this violin, he was so awestruck by it. By the time he was done, he said, "Take it." He said, "I have no right to keep that to myself. Take it into the world and let people hear it." And when I read that, I thought, that is what we have. We have something so spectacular in our life. We have Jesus. We have salvation. We have so much. It's our job. We should be so excited to go tell every person we could possibly tell. And we want to have that awe back so that we can do that. I don't think we're going to share our faith if we're not in awe of Jesus. I just think that's the problem. We're going to show a video in a second. I don't know if you were around as a follower of Christ in the 70s or 80s, which a lot of you weren't because you're really young. There was a man by the name of Keith Green. I don't know if anyone remembers him. Keith Green was, I would like to say, the Donald Trump of Christian music. Okay, he didn't mess around. Like when you heard a Keith Green song, you knew this was it. Wake up, world. Wake up, followers of Jesus. It's our job to go share our faith. It's time to wake up. Let's get out there. No bones about it. That's just what he did. He was one of my very, very favorites that I listened to all the time back there. I saw him in concert in Flagstaff. And then there was those moments in your life when you know exactly where you were when something happened. Like I know where I was when the space shuttle thing blew up with the teacher on there. Like I remember the moment. Or 9/11. You know exactly where you were in 9/11. And I remember the moment I was in a hotel room as I listened to the news that said, today, Keith Green died in a plane crash along with his 3-year-old son, 2-year-old daughter. His 1-year-old was at home with his wife, his pregnant wife, and he was 28 years old. And I was devastated. I can't even begin to tell you. And I'm thinking, here's a man who wants so much for people to come to Jesus, and he's dead, okay? So I went back and I found one of his songs because this was very, very important for our lesson today. And I want you to get past the outfit because actually people did wear this in the 70s, and actually people really did. Somebody took this video. Now, we don't have video like we did today. We don't have iPhones. And I mean, remember that as you're looking at this. But David put the words on there. So as he's singing, I want you to really, really listen to the words, and then we'll go on from there.
Do you see all the people sinking down? Don't you care? Don't you care? Are you gonna let them drown? How can you be so numb not to care if they come? You close your eyes and pretend the job's done. Oh, bless me, Lord, bless me, Lord. You know, it's all I ever hear. No one aches, no one hurts, no one even sheds one tear. But he cries, he weeps, he bleeds, and he cares for your needs. And you just lay back and keep soaking it in. Oh, can't you see it's such sin? 'Cause he brings people to your door and you turn them away as you smile and say, God bless you, be at peace. And all heaven just weeps. 'Cause Jesus came to your door. You've left him out on the streets. Open up, and don't give yourself away. You see the need, you hear the cries, so how can you delay? God's calling, and you're the one, but like Jonah, you run. He's told you to speak, but you keep holding it in. Oh, can't you see it, start seeing? The world is sleeping in the dark, that the church just can't fight, 'cause it's asleep in the light. How can you be so dead when you've been so well fed? Jesus rose from the grave, and you can't even get out of bed. Oh, Jesus rose from the dead. Come on, get out of your bed. La da, la da, la da, la da, la da, la da, la. How can you be so numb not to care if they come? You close your eyes and pretend the job's done. You close your eyes and pretend the job's done. Don't close your eyes, don't pretend the job's done.
Super loved him. But wasn't that just like so like, but that's how his heart was. And he played the piano and oh my gosh, I'm just like, he would be one of the greatest evangelists. You just wonder, those are the questions I have for God, like, what were you thinking? But I know that his music is still here. If you actually have Spotify, go on to Keith Green. He has the most amazing songs. He's got a song called Make My Life a Prayer to You. And every time I hear him, I cry. It's kind of pathetic. So here's the deal. Why is that our job? And here's why. If you look in your handouts, Paul says in 2 Corinthians 5:20, therefore, we are ambassadors for Christ. As though God were making an appeal through us, we beg you on behalf of Christ, be reconciled to God. See, that is our job. You and I, when we decide to follow Christ, are ambassadors. Now, for all the whole Clinton, Benghazi, that whole thing that's going on, the problem is the man who was killed over there, he was a United States ambassador to Libya. And so what that looks like is that his job was to represent our country to another country. So in other words, our job as an ambassador is to represent Jesus to a world, and it really, really matters how we live. I'll tell you this. There's a story of this girl. Let's put a picture of her up there. She's kind of mad, okay? So there's a story of this girl, and she pulls up in front of a stoplight. Car in front of her, and the guy in front of her is just like, he's got headphones on, not paying attention, texting on his phone, and he misses the light, and that's her. She's furious, she's angry, she's mad, she's flipping him off, she's cussing him out, she's rolling down her window. She rolls her window back up, and she hears a little knock, and she looks up. It's a police officer, and he said, get out of the car. She gets out, and he hauls her to jail, and when it's all said and done, she walks out, and the police officer's standing there, and he said, ma'am, I am really, really sorry. He said, but here's what was going on. He said, I saw how you acted to the car in front of you. And he said, I looked down to all your bumper stickers on your car. And they said, Jesus loves you. Follow me to church. The little fish sign. One that said, I like this, drive carefully. More than cars can be recalled by their maker. I thought that was kind of cute. But he said, I sat there looking at you, and I thought you had stolen someone's car. Okay. So it really honestly matters how we act. Because if we act one way and we claim Christ another way, we lose all credibility. Nobody will ever want to listen to us. If you are here and you are going on the weekends getting drunk and taking pictures, and you have a joint in your hand at the same time, you're like, what, the party? Okay, if that's you, and then the next post is a verse about Jesus, I will tell you right off the bat, you're done. You look like a hypocrite. And nobody will ever listen to a word you say about Jesus. It's not going to happen. Your credibility's gone. If you're here, you're watching us, you're having an affair with the boss, and your whole office knows about it, or your next door neighbor, and your whole neighborhood knows about it except your husband, okay, here's the deal. If you go to them and say, hey, come to church with us this week, they would laugh. You've lost all of your credibility. As ambassadors, it's our job to live what we believe. And I will tell you, otherwise we look like hypocritical jerks. And we don't want that. We want our faith to be something that exudes out of us, and we live a life so people will say, I want what you have. I learned this week because I was kind of like that lady. We had this internet at our house, and we have this house, it was built in the 70s. The wiring's old, the phone systems are crazy. It's a lot because we've had businesses out there. And so we had the phone company come out, and we needed 2 internet boxes put in. So he comes out, I'm not home, but he calls me after about an hour, and he said, ma'am, this is a bigger job than I thought it would be. And he said, I only have an hour to work on this, so I'm going to leave, but I'm going to come back tomorrow at 7 a.m. in the morning, and I will fix this for you. I'm like, okay. When I get home, he not only didn't fix it, he shut down our entire internet, so of course that stresses me out. I can't get on the internet. So the next morning, Rob calls me because he's out of town, and he goes, what's going on? I told him, the guy's going to be here at 7, and he started laughing. He goes, you know that guy's not going to show up. And I'm like, I would rather believe that people are honoring their word, okay? That's kind of my thinking on the whole thing. Well, of course, by 7:15, he's not there. So I'm texting him, hey, don't forget to be out here. You promised you'd be here by 8, and you weren't here. You've shut down our internet. I need someone out here. He says back, texts me back, oh, I'm sorry. I had another job on the other side of town, okay? So I text him back, and I said, you better get someone out here like now, okay? I have no internet. I need you to fix this. Like, this is very important. We run, I have business stuff. We have ministry stuff. Like, we have to get this done. So he sends a guy out. He gets there at 10:30. The guy gets here, and I just start railing on this guy. I'm so mad at your guy. I can't believe he did that. People need to keep their word. No one keeps their word in this world anymore. He said he'd be here at 7 to fix my internet. He's nowhere in sight. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, after I did my whole rampage, he looks at me and he goes, he just started working for us a month ago, and he said, your house is really hard. It was really stressful for him. Okay, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, then all during the day, I noticed that he's on the phone with this guy. He's trying to teach the guy things that then I realized it's probably his little brother, okay? And I've just thrown him under the bus. So now, when it comes time for me to say, hey, here's a book that we wrote, okay? It wasn't going to happen. I just pretended like I was an atheist, okay? And I'm hoping he doesn't go down to my office where he sees all of our books and Bibles, because he's going to be like, okay, this just... But I ruined my entire credibility with this one guy because of how I acted. And that's why it matters how we act. So this is what we've learned. In order for us to share our faith, first, you got to be in awe of God. Do whatever you need to do to get that awe back. Second, we represent him and realize that he sends us out. So I'm going to tell you, we're going to do a little skit up here because I'm going to show you what I do. When Jesus talked to people about their faith, about people coming to Jesus, like he would go to them, and he wouldn't just go and say, you're going to hell, you better follow me. Okay? He never did that. He was loving, he was kind, he got into their world. So what he did was, the woman at the well, he didn't just walk up and say, who do you think you are? Like, you just got this all wrong. What he did is he sat down and he said, let's talk about water, okay? He brings water up, he talks about, and he engages her in conversation. Peter, what does he talk to Peter about? Fish. Peter, throw your nets out. So whatever you do, whenever you're in a situation to talk to people, make sure that you get into their world. So Cheyenne's going to come up. She's my daughter, if most of you don't know her. So we're going to do this little skit. We're at the grocery store. So here's our little grocery store sign, okay? So everyone knows where we're at. Okay, she's in the front of the line. They aren't selling hats, they're actually selling groceries. So we would be standing here in line, and this is how I would engage in a conversation with anyone standing in line at a grocery store. So I'd be like, oh, wow, how cute. Like, look at all the really healthy stuff you have. Like, that's kind of, isn't God so awesome how he makes beautiful, like, carrots or orange orange, and I don't even know what that is, but it's green.
Cauliflower.
Okay, whatever that is. And you must really like to eat healthy. I don't like to eat healthy very much, as you can see. In fact, half the bag's gone. I think I ate it during our shopping spree. But what do you do? Do you live around here?
Yeah, I mean, I go to Grand Canyon University, so I live there right now.
Oh, that's what you're in college. That's
Yeah,
Grand Canyon's
college.
kind of a Christian-y college thing, is that correct? So do people go to church there?
I mean, a lot of people do. Like, my mom's into like that whole Bible study thing, but I don't really go. No.
You're just kind of sick of that whole
I mean,
thing.
yeah, growing up, like going to my mom's Bible study all the time.
It gets really old. Totally get that. Yes,
totally.
Super, okay. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I have something for you. I'm going to give you a pen. It says womensbiblestudy.com. I just want to give that to you so that, like, someday when you realize college is not giving you everything that you think it's going to give you, like, you can go online. We have an app for your phone, whatever. So someday, if you ever want to come back to God, you're welcome to join us or whatever. So there you go.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go. That's as easy as it is, okay? What you do is you have to make sure you look around your surroundings and you go, okay, God, I'm surrounded by people, grocery store, hairdresser, wherever you are. Look around. Find something, and it always helps to give them something. So what we have is pens, but a lot of people watch us from all over, and you don't have pens to give out. But what you make something, like make something that has a candy bar on it. Put your name on it. Put your phone number on it. Take a one-way book. We have tons of them over there. We make these for people, for you guys, so that you can hand them out. Stick them in your purse. Write your phone number in the top and say, look, here's a book for you. People like it when you give them things. Now, they may throw it away. They may dump it in the garbage. I can't tell you how many pens probably are in the garbage, but at least you've done something. It's your job to do something. It's God's job to save them. But you'll never know what a pen or a card or a candy bar or whatever. You guys come up with brilliant things. Most of you get your nails done. I know that, okay? We did our one-way book in Vietnamese. Okay, so I've got copies of those over there. Spanish. Everyone has people that speak Spanish. We have one way in Spanish. So we have all these tools for you. Just pick them up and then this week say, God, I'm leaving my house this morning. What can I do to share you with somebody? Like, it doesn't even mean you have to share the gospel. Invite them to your church. Get cards from your church. Invite them to a service. Do whatever it takes to say, look, I'm a follower of Jesus, and I would love for you to, you just don't know where people are in their life that they would be like, oh, someone invited me somewhere. You just don't know where that is going to go for you. Now, I'm going to end with telling you for this section real quick, about a woman that I met. I'd never met her. I don't know if she's here, if Crystal's here or not. I'm going to tell about her if she's here or not. I didn't ask her, but I'm going to do this anyway. This is why people don't hang out with me. They don't go to lunch with me because the first thing, if I ever go to lunch with people, they're like, you're not going to use my story in Bible study, right? You're not going to tell anyone what I'm going to tell you, right? I'm like, well, maybe. So, but anyway, I walked into my hairdresser the other day, last week. Went in, had all the foils put in, and I was sitting there, and this woman, her name's Crystal, I didn't know her at the time, walked in with her 2 daughters. They sat down, and so I looked up and I said, because this is the deal, you just try to get in a conversation with someone. Say something that you think they might want to talk about. So I said, oh my gosh, your girls, they're out of school. Did you homeschool them? And she said, yeah, we really do. Okay, now that I know they homeschool, then you ask a question. Well, why do you homeschool? And this is what she said to me. We are desperate to impart our faith to our children. Okay, now, she's just done something to open the door for me. She doesn't know I'm a Christian. She doesn't know me. She's opening up the door on her end, and I am trying to open the door because I need a conversation with her. So where do you go to church? And she said, I go to CCV. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my church too. That's so fun, So then we get to talking about church. Well, as I'm listening to her, I hear her say her husband's name. And her husband is actually doing all of our software, so I've met her husband. When we did that CCV interview thing, that was at their house. Okay, well, I've never met her before. And so we start talking. But as I'm listening to her, I'm hearing words out of her mouth to the lady who does hair and to any of the other people that are around. You hear her talking about wisdom. You hear her talking about, so-and-so's not a Christian and we're doing everything we can to love on them. And I walked away saying, I am so impressed with this woman because it's what Campus Crusade would call way of life witnessing. Look around your surrounding areas. I'm in Walmart the other day. There's a woman standing there. She's got a 4 or 5 year old. She's in a cart. She's looking at ads. I walk up to her, and at first people think you're weird because people don't normally do that. I walk up and said, hi. I don't even know if you go to church anywhere, but I'm giving you this pen because we do a women's Bible study. We have childcare for 18 months and older. If ever you need an hour break, we would love to have you. And then I turn around and walk off. Okay, people love that. No one has ever thrown a pen in my face. Never. No, they've never said, I don't want that. Take it away, leave it, It doesn't happen. They'll be gracious, they'll throw it in the garbage later, but they're not going to do it to your face. So step out. And even if they do throw it in your face, oh well, you're never going to see them anyway, so whatever. Okay, I have no idea where we're at here. I lost my train of thought a long time ago. Oh, Jesus in those verses said, if somebody doesn't want anything to do with you and me, walk away. Shake the dust off your feet. Some of you are so desperate to get people saved. You're driving them nuts. Okay? You're talking consistently. You need Jesus, and that's great, but it drives them crazy. Your best thing to do is they know you're a follower of Christ. They know when there's tragedy or something, you're the first person they're going to come to. You are not going to save them. God will save them. He'll move on their hearts. I told you this before. Bill Hybels, he was they had a big baptismal service. Comes around the corner afterwards, and a woman's sitting on the stair crying. And he said, what's going on? And she said, that was my mom that just got baptized. She said, 5 years after praying for her, I thought, who needs this? God isn't answering. After the 10-year mark, I thought, why am I wasting my breath praying for my mom? She will never come to Christ. After the 15-year mark, she said, this is absurd. And 19 years, she said, I'm just a fool. But I never stopped praying for my mom. And today, she was baptized and came to Jesus. Don't ever, ever give up. Those people, they may not want Jesus today, but 20 years from now, they might. And they know where to come if you're standing for your faith and you're living for your faith. Don't take it personally. Jesus didn't. He said, hey, plan on it. Plan on people saying, you're a nutcase, okay? And be okay with that. That's where we have to go. Now, next video. We're going to Masada. This is the one where it's like, ignore the hair and the makeup and everything else. The next part we're going to talk about has nothing to actually do with our lesson. It's got a couple verses up here. We're going to talk about Herod, because I want you to understand Herod. But you'll see, this is Masada. It's down at the Dead Sea. And it has no biblical reference at all, but Herod does, so I want to talk about him. So, okay. Okay, we are back here at a place called Masada. We wanted you to see this. First of all, look on your map. You will see we are down south by the Dead Sea. We are standing on top of, you can see it from here, it's a huge fortress that Herod had built at the time of Herod the Great. He's a master builder. I'm just going to read 2 verses from today, and it talks about Herod, which makes me want to talk about what's going on up here. Let's just read these verses really quickly. Luke 9, verse 7, now Herod the Tetrarch heard of all that was happening, and he was greatly perplexed, because it was said by some that John had risen from the dead, and by some that Elijah had appeared, and by others that one of the prophets of old had risen again. Herod said, I myself had John beheaded, but who is this man about whom I hear such things? And he kept trying to see him. Now, the Herod that we're talking about here is not the Herod who built that. This would have been his father. And I want to talk about Herod really quick, because he was one of the greatest builders in Jewish history. He built the temple down in Jerusalem, where we're going to see a lot of over the course of our series in Luke. He built a royal palace down in Jerusalem. He built this big, beautiful palace up here. If you could see it up here, it's one of these places you definitely want to come see if you ever come to Israel. Herod the Great built Caesarea Maritima, which is over on the Mediterranean, and this fortress up here. Herod was a cuckoo crazy man, just so you know that. He murdered his wife, a couple of his sons, her brother, her grandfather, her mother. But the Herod the Great that built this up here was the one who, when the Magi announced the birth of some great king coming, he wanted to do everything he could to get rid of this king. He had all the little babies in Bethlehem slaughtered. He ruled from 37 BC until right after the birth of Jesus. And so this is what he gave his kingdom to 3 of his sons. But up here, we just wanted to show you with the Dead Sea in the background what this looked like, that Herod built all of this. And we see all these Herods all throughout Luke, and Herod the Great. And the person who talked about this was Herod's son. So welcome to Masada. And it was so hot. I cannot even begin to tell you. Okay, so this is what I want to tell you, because I want you to see in the Bible, as you're studying the Bible, there's all these different Herods, and you're going to be confused. You're going to be like, well, I thought Herod was dead. So I want to tell you this really, really quick. You have a map, second page in on your handout today. And I want you to see what was going on here. If you look all around that black area, that is the area that Herod the Great, which was the main Herod who built all of these places, that was his particular, that was like his kingdom. Then what happened is he died. After Jesus was born, first he had all the babies in Bethlehem killed. By this particular time, an angel had told Joseph, get Jesus out, get him down into Egypt. He went into Egypt. Herod the Great died probably a year or so later into the birth of Jesus, gave his kingdom to 3 of his sons. And this is how it split up. If you can see, there's kind of a purple color and a yellow color and an orange color. Those are the different places that Herod the Great's sons actually ruled. Now, his son Archelaus, he is the eldest son to Herod the Great. He would have been the one that took over around Jerusalem, that whole area. That's why when an angel told Joseph to take Jesus out of Egypt and get him up north into Galilee. That's why he moved into Nazareth. He didn't stay down there into Jerusalem because Archelaus was ruling at that time, and he was not a very nice leader. None of them really were, except Philip. You can see Philip. Let's see, Philip is the one that is the purple, I think. Is that right? He was actually a pretty good leader. He was a nicer than most of them. He had a woman by the name of, a wife by the name of Herodias. Herodias, this, like I say, this would make Jerry Springer like super happy. It's just to get all the Herods up. And okay, so you've got Herod Philip. He is, he's married to Herodias. Herodias decides, I don't really like Philip. I think I like the brother Antipas. So she leaves Philip, goes and probably has an affair, and then marries the brother who's the orange up there. So you see, this is just craziness going on. This is their life. Herod Antipas is the one who beheaded John the Baptist. He was the one who heard, because John the Baptist said, Herod Antipas, you cannot take your brother's wife. Like, you need to repent. And that made that Herodias mad, and then eventually you have the scene where the dancing and they cut off his head, bottom line. So John the Baptist was beheaded because of that. So you kind of see all these different Herods, and I wanted you to understand that there are lots of different ones, but that's why, is because they're ruling different segments, but they're all kids of Herod. And then in Acts, you'll see a lot of Herod Agrippa, and he is actually the grandson of Herod the Great. So in that, we just saw that he was perplexed. Now, I want to just go to the very last thing today. We'll show you this last video, and then I'll make one point, and then we'll be done. Okay, welcome back. And here we are in a town called Bethsaida. This is where Jesus fed the 5,000, which actually wasn't 5,000, it was more like 15,000 people. So we just walked through a lot of ruins from the time of Jesus that are still here. So if you ever come to Israel, make sure you come to this particular place. Behind me, you can see the Sea of Galilee in the very, very background. And these particular trees were not here at the time of Jesus, but this would be the hill that he would be standing up here talking, and the whole entire hillside would be filled with people. So today, if you want to look at your map, you can see that Bethsaida, where we are at, is on the northeast side of the Sea of Galilee. We've got that on your map right there. And we are in Luke 9. We're going to read the verses for today, and then we'll head back and talk about them. Luke 9, verse 10, we'll start there. When the apostles returned, they gave an account to him of all that they had done. Taking them with him, he withdrew by himself to a city called Bethsaida. But the crowds were aware of this and followed him, and welcoming them, he began speaking to them about the kingdom of God and curing those who had need of healing. Now the day was ending, and the 12 came and said to him, "Send the crowd away that they may go into the surrounding villages and countryside and find lodging and get something to eat. For here we are in a desolate place." But he said to them, "You give them something to eat." And they said, "We have no more than 5 loaves and 2 fish, unless perhaps we go and buy food for all these people." For there were about 5,000 men. And he said to his disciples, "Have them sit down to eat in groups of 50 each." They did so, and had them all sit down. Then he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he blessed them and broke them, and kept giving them to the disciples to set before the people. And they all ate and were satisfied, and the broken pieces which they had left over were picked up, 12 basketfuls. Okay, one final point. When you and I are sharing the gospel with people, look what Jesus did. He fed people. And sometimes I think that in order to get people's attention, you may have to do something for them. You may have to feed them, bring them, maybe you need to pay for their babysitting so they can go get a job interview. Maybe you need to go mow their lawn. Like sometimes we have to do something, and we see this from Jesus. He didn't just say, "Come on, everybody, just sit here and listen. I hope, you're starving, get over it." Okay, he fed the people, and sometimes you have to do that, and it doesn't always work. I was thinking about this: 15 to 20,000 people were sitting there being fed by Jesus. They saw the miracle, they saw everything, and yet after Jesus was crucified, there was 120 in the upper room. That's it. And I'm thinking, how out of 15,000 people who saw Jesus and how miraculous he was, and yet they didn't care. So know that. Help people, bless them, do whatever you can do to show them the love of Jesus, because that's what Jesus did. Because I'll tell you, it's hard to listen about Jesus if you're starving and on an empty stomach. That's why a lot of people go into the homeless. They're like, "I want to feed you, I want to help you." There's ministries that do that because they want them to be able to hear about Jesus, but you can't listen if you're starving. It's like, it's hard to hear about Jesus if your neighbor's a single mom and you're going, "Hey, come to Jesus, come to church." And she is a single mom of 4 kids, and she can't pay her electric bill. She can't focus on anything except she can't pay her bill. And sometimes with you being the loving person walking in saying, "Can I pay that for you?" it does more volume than just handing a tract out. It's hard for people to listen about Jesus when they can't get to work because their car broke down and they don't have money to get it fixed. So see, that's what we need to do. It's our job to go do something, and sometimes it needs to be tangible, that costs us money, that costs us something. And so we have to understand that about sharing our faith. This is what I want to say. Please do not ever assume that somebody else has shared their faith with that person. Never assume that. I was driving down Bell the other day. I'm on this lane. There's 2 lanes over here. I hear this crash. I look up. The car over here came, hit the side, jumped into and hit a big sign. Okay, well, I'm driving, so I'm like, well, I can't really turn around and get back there. My first thought was, I better call 911. I grabbed my phone, and then I thought, nah, somebody else will do it. I eventually did, and somebody else had. But the point to that is, we just assume. And then I thought, what if every person who saw that accident assumed that somebody else called in 911? And that person sitting there and could be dead. Okay, we don't know the people that we come in contact. So here's what I want to end with today. Know your surroundings. Look for someone to share your faith with. Do something. Give them something. And more than anything, I want you to get awe of God, because I don't think we're going to care that much about sharing our faith if we don't love Jesus like Sarah did. I put in your handout some verses that I want you just to look at. I don't think we have time to go over them. I'll just read a couple real quick. Psalm 32:5. I acknowledged my sin to you. My iniquity I did not hide. I confess my transgressions. And look what it says. The Lord instantly forgave the guilt and iniquity. Instantly. Okay, that's something to be in awe about God. Psalm 33:6. By the word of the Lord were the heavens made. Okay, that's something to get in awe of God about. Psalm 37:24, though he falls, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord grasps his hand and support and upholds him. Those are things to be in awe about God. So spend time this week, find out what it is that you need to get in awe of him, and let's go out and make a difference. We are ambassadors. Let's never forget that how we live matters, and our job is to represent Jesus well. God, thank you for your word. Thank you for the things that you tell us so that we can go and do. God, help us this week to look at our surroundings, to look out and to be willing to do something so that people can know you. God, I pray that for each one of us, but more than anything, I want us to be in awe of you. God, help us to read your word. Look for things that make us go, I love Jesus so much that I have to tell everybody about him. I pray that for every person in here and listening. Thank you, Jesus, for living in our hearts and loving us and saving us. Nothing could be greater than that. Help us to give that gift to other people in your name. Amen.